Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm glad to hear about the work to help prospective students get critical information when they're making decisions about where to go to school. But we still have many who are in programs that are happy to take the military members' federal benefits but don't deliver on their promise of providing a good education. And as we know, this is a serious problem for any student, but even worse for those who are using GI benefits. Once a veteran entrusts a college with those hard-earned benefits, there's no second chance if the school turns out to be of very poor quality. Prior to this year, veterans in active duty military had few places to turn to share their stories and get help when they were mistreated by colleges. In January, the federal government launched a system for veterans and members of the military to file complaints about bad experiences they had with colleges. The complaint portal is a collaboration among several federal agencies, including the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Department of Defense, the Department of Education, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So my question is, Dr. Langdon, how does the DoD plan to use the data that you are collecting from complaints to improve the tuition assistance program?
Ma'am, it's a very good question, and as we, to caveat to my prior statement, not only are the schools must be regionally and nationally accredited, but they also must be VA approved, and they also must be Title IV approved. And so there are many levels that we wanted to make sure that the service member, when they were going to school, that they were going.
No, I understand that about the front end. My question is, you're collecting now a lot of complaint data, and what I want to know is how do you plan to use the complaint data?
As we brought it in to date, ma'am, we've had 146 complaints since January, complaints filed since January of 31 was brought on. That is not a huge number considering as the number that I've given you at 285,000. What we are finding of that data, of those complaints, they're not actually complaints against a school per se. It's unknown policies, or I didn't know what a policy was. So it was a process or policy procedure. So what we've realized, ma'am, is that we need to now start touching back with the universities, the ones that our students are going to, and trying to help them understand what we're hearing and what we're finding about where the policies need to be, how the explanations need to go. Just as to my colleague to the left here mentioned that before, it's easily accessible. UNC on their policies. So that's what we're using.
So just so I understand, so
right.
At this point, your plan is to investigate each one of these complaints.
As they come in, yes, ma'am.
As they come in. And let me just ask while we got this out here, Ms. Thompson-Sparks, why doesn't the federal government collect complaints from all students?
So I'm not sure I have the specifics to answer that question. However, I will say that the collection of data is of utmost importance to us.
But how about complaint data?
So Ed is participating as part of the centralized complaint system, and to date, I don't have the exact number of complaints we have received, but I know that it is feeding back into our understanding of how our Title IV borrowers are utilizing their aid.
Mr. Hubbard?
That's actually an excellent point, I think, Senator, and that is veterans are highlighting issues that have been occurring for individuals in higher education across the board. I think only until recently, as these veterans have spoken out, that these issues have surfaced. For veterans, they have no problem necessarily saying, hey, I earned these benefits and they're being used poorly. I think to that end, we could encourage more veterans and more individuals in higher education to take similar steps. Collecting data across the board for individuals in higher education, extremely important. If we're not doing that, we're letting all individuals down. Veterans that go to school will be let down because their peers are being let down. The educational environment as a result is hurt, and that hurts everyone across the board.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson?
Thank you, Senator. One of the main complaints that I hear about the post-9/11 GI Bill specifically is the ability for a veteran to separate from the military and then enter into a program that is VA approved and is degree seeking as a matriculated student at a school. The post-9/11 GI Bill will pay up to 2 terms while they are seeking continuing education courses to become matriculated degree seeking students. However, one of the real problems that I've run into is that at many schools, and the University of Vermont is one of them, over the summer term, there are many different meeting sessions with different beginning and end dates. And from VA perspective, well, for the University of Vermont, it is 1 semester. From VA's perspective, those are each separate terms. So I have students, when we think about non-traditional students and student veterans being some of the most non-traditional, we have individuals who entered UVM in the spring semester who are trying to be degree-seeking matriculated students in the fall who can only get a portion of their summer courses paid. And that's something that I've seen that's a real problem. It's a barrier to them becoming degree-seeking students.
Ms. Rhinehardt?
Yes, ma'am. We also hear complaints about the, rising tuition, the cost of going to college. And, as I listened to my fellow panelists, I heard, we're now, I don't know, on the 4th iteration of a DOD MOU or 3rd. I lost track. The Department of Ed is doing something. CFPB is doing something. The VA is doing something. So back home in North Carolina, we've got a lot of state legislators asking us, why do you have so much middle management? Well, because we have to keep up with all of these processes and make sure we're inputting all these things to comply. And so every minute that we're working to comply with multiple agencies that may or may not be coordinating, that's a minute that's taken away from serving the veteran.
I'm sorry, Ms. Rhinehardt. I want to make sure I'm understanding you. What we're talking about here is an established complaint system that has only been established since January. And it is there to take complaints directly from veterans or active duty service members who are having a problem with college. Now, are you saying that when we get a follow-up from the Department of Defense, that they should not be following up on those complaints to find out what the veteran's problem is with the college and whether or not the college is appropriately addressing it because it takes your time?
No, ma'am. Actually, I didn't address the complaint system at all.
Well, that was my question, was about the complaint system and whether we should have a complaint system not just for veterans and active duty military, but we should also have a complaint system for all students. I want to make the point that having a complaint system in place is a powerful tool for accountability. In a little over 2 years, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has handled nearly 250,000 complaints about financial products. Service members, veterans, and their families are only a small portion of those who have complained, but they have already recovered more than $1 million from financial institutions through this complaint system. Every complaint, however, has been valuable because it tells an agency what kind of problems exist and where they exist, and permits that agency to examine the institutions that are failing those they are supposed to serve. So most recently, the CFPB complaint data formed the basis of a $97 million settlement against Sallie Mae for overcharging veterans on their student loans. We should take seriously the importance of developing robust complaint systems and using the data that come from those systems. Thank you, Madam Chairman.